A figurine of wax, no longer than your forearm, rests in a man's palm. Within a week, it will become a living crocodile, drag a grown man to the bottom of the Nile, and hold him there for 7 days. And when it is over, it will turn back into wax, and the highest court in Egypt will rule that no crime was committed at all. The man holding it is not shouting, he is not weeping, he is perfectly calm. That is the most frightening part of this story. The Egyptians wrote it down in a text we now call the Westcar Papyrus as a tale told to a pharaoh, and whether it happened or not almost doesn't matter, because the strategy buried inside it is real, repeatable, and still used today by people who have never heard of it. The man with the wax was a magician at the royal court. His function was to perceive what others couldn't, and what he had perceived was happening inside his own house. His wife had taken a lover, and she believed she had been careful. She had not been careful enough for a man whose entire profession was seeing what people wished to hide. Here is where most men would have failed. He could have confronted her. He could have dragged the lover to the town gate, demanded justice, let everyone watch him rage. But he understood something the average betrayed husband never grasps in time. The man seen to strike first inherits the blame. Public fury would have made him the story, the jealous husband, the man who lost control, the one people whispered about. So he did the hardest thing a wronged person can do: nothing. He gave no sign. He let his wife believe she was safe, and he went quietly to his workshop. Sit with the discipline that took, to know each day what was happening under your own roof, to share meals with the person deceiving you and betray no flicker of it, and to spend that time not raging, but building, carefully, patiently toward a solution. Most people cannot hold a grievance silently for a single afternoon. He held his for as long as the work required, and the silence itself was part of the weapon. What he built was small, a crocodile of wax, shaped with the care of a craftsman, making something to be admired rather than used. He spoke words over it that we can no longer translate, but we know they were not decorative. And then he made the single most deliberate choice in the entire story. He did not act himself. He handed the figure to a servant with an instruction so plain it sounded like nothing at all. When the lover next bows down to the river to bathe, drop this into the water behind him. That was all. The magician would not be present. He would not be seen anywhere near the river. That absence was the whole design. By placing a servant, a river, and a schedule he did not control between himself and the act, he guaranteed that whatever happened next could never be traced to a decision anyone saw him make. He was not building a murder, he was building deniability, and letting the consequence walk in on its own feet. The servant obeyed. The wax slipped into the current. The lover waded in, unaware, the way people always are in the exact moment a consequence they cannot see has already been set in motion. And then, the papyrus says, the wax became real, a living crocodile, 7 cubits long, that took the man under and did not release him, not for an hour, not for a day, 7 days at the bottom of the river. And through all 7, the magician waited. This is the part that should unsettle you more than the crocodile. Picture what that week actually asked of him. Each morning the household woke and moved through its ordinary rhythms, bread made, water carried, his wife's face across the room, giving no hint that she sensed anything wrong, because nothing looked wrong. A man had gone to bathe and simply not come home, and the Nile takes people. Everyone knew that. There was no body to mourn, no wound to examine, no weapon to find, no witness, no visible enemy, nothing to accuse. Neighbors would have assumed an accident, a slip, bad luck at the water's edge. And in the middle of that ordinary week stood the one man who knew exactly what had happened and precisely why, and he said nothing, day after day, letting the silence do its work. He understood to act too early would look like guilt, while to act at the right moment would look like justice. So he let the full 7 days run, because the waiting was not hesitation, it was the final step of the plan. When he finally moved, he went straight to the Pharaoh, and noticed precisely what he asked for and what he didn't. He did not beg for revenge, he did not confess to a killing. He laid the whole sequence before the king, the affair, the wax, the servant, the river, the crocodile still waiting beneath the surface. And then he asked the Pharaoh to judge whether the man deserved what had already befallen him. In one move, he turned himself from the one who acted into the one merely reporting what had occurred. The Pharaoh weighed the facts and ruled the man deserved it. Only then did the magician reach into the water, take hold of the crocodile, and it went still, and shrank, and became wax again in his palm, exactly as it had begun. The lover was gone, the wife was exposed, the killing had been declared just by the highest authority in the land, and the man who engineered all of it had never, in a visible moment, been the one who did it. This is the principle the Egyptians buried inside a ghost story, and it has a sharp modern edge. The safest form of power is the kind that never looks like power being used at all. He never raised a hand. He assembled the conditions for another man's destruction, built enough distance that no single choice could be pinned to him, and let the outcome arrive on its own feet. By the time authority entered the picture, he was not the attacker, he was a citizen asking the state to confirm that justice had already been served. The Egyptians were not alone in understanding this. Centuries later, and worlds away, court histories fill with the same move under different names. The advisor who never accuses a rival outright, but arranges for the ruler to discover the rival's failure himself. The general who lets an enemy's own overreach destroy him rather than meeting him head-on in the field. The specifics change, the shape never does. Create the conditions, remove yourself from the scene, and let the target's own downfall look like fate rather than attack.